I'm going to show you how to cut house wrap for a window opening. Now I've already cut it, so this is just purely for demonstration. First thing you're going to want to do is locate the four corners of your window and either put a nail or a mark or something. Then you want to cut straight across the top of your window opening and straight down in the middle, about 3/4 of the way down. Then from each corner, cut on a diagonal to meet that cut both ways, and at the top cut back on a 45-degree angle in each corner, allowing for you to have a flap above. So it's going to look something like this. Then all you want to do is flap your sides in. When it's done, it's going to look something like that. So the next step in installing a window is to prep your sill. So I have a piece of clapboard. I like doing this. And just put it right on your sill. With the bevel, the thick end in the back, and that way if any water does get in, it wants to shed the water forward out towards the outside of your building. Now in some cases in older homes, the sills of the framing were actually beveled. So if that's the case, you don't have to do this step. The next part is to install your flashing membrane. So I use Resisto. So all you want to do is measure the inside dimension of your window opening and add 2 times the width of your flashing trim. So this is 6-inch flashing, so you want to add 12 inches. Now I actually made a mark at the 6-inch mark so I could line it up with the edge of the window, but you don't have to get that picky if you're not that OCD about it. So basically you want 2 inches of this flashing above the edge of your sill. So after you've got that on, you want to cut down, straight down in each corner. Then you want to just fold that right in. So it's going to look something like that. Then you want to take your next piece, same width, or I guess same length, and you want to lay that inside the sill. With 2 inches coming out past the edge of your sill. Then you want to make a straight cut coming out on each corner. You want to wrap that over. And then wrap this flat down. And that's how you flash a windowsill. So the next thing I do is I take another piece of clapboard and I put that facing so the fat end is out towards the outside of the building. I always pre-drill my holes so you don't split it. This stuff's super prone to splitting. And I just keep mine a little ways away from the corner of the framing just so I can allow for some room for insulation around the window. So I just nail these about 3/4 of an inch from the corner of the window. And the next thing I do is put a bead of caulking around the outside of my window opening. Now I like to put it on the actual wall as opposed to the back side of the nailing flange, just because of the fact that I put my hands in the caulking when I picked up the window and it just makes a big mess. So try to keep your bead as close as you can to the edge of the window opening. Sorry, I'm using partly used tubes already, so just gotta clear some of that old stuff out. So I like to start with the top. Don't skimp out on this. This tube's like $7. It's better to use a little more and be safe than to have your window leak down the road. You want a nice continuous bead on the sides as well. And I go down about an inch past the corner of my window opening. You never want to caulk the bottom of your window because if any water does get in behind your window, you want to be letting it, you want to allow the water to shed out from the bottom of your window. So never caulk the bottom of your window or tape it. So the next thing I do is I measure the width of my window. This is only if I'm installing it by myself. Typically you want to have 2 people doing this, but I'm at home working by myself, so you got to make do. So you measure the width of your window, including your nailing flange. And you measure the inside dimension of your window opening. Find your center point, and then half the width of your window. And I put a mark on the outside. That way I know when I put my window in, I know I'm centered somewhat in the window. So that's how I like to make sure that I have my window centered in the opening when you're working by yourself. Another thing to note when you're installing windows is obviously you want to make sure they are the right way up. I know that sounds ridiculous, but with fixed windows, especially like this, windows that don't open, they look almost identical. So if you don't have stickers on it or you don't have a directional arrow on it from the manufacturer, look for these. It's hard to see, but there's little holes or slots at the bottom of your window. Those are called weeping holes. You always want to make sure those are at the bottom of your window. So my window is all prepped. Make sure you have nails and a level right beside you because you don't want to wait when you're installing this. So here we go. So I'm just lining up my mark with the outside edge of my window. Making sure I'm in all the way. What I like to do is just chuck a level on it before you nail anything. So this end is low. So what I do is I toss a nail on this side and just don't drive it home. This allows me to pick up the other side, and this is basically allows for the pivot. And as you can see, it's obviously easier to do it. It's obviously easier to do this with two people. So not only do you want to check level, but you also want to check plumb. Now with fixed windows, this isn't nearly as important, but with windows that open, you want to make sure that your window is not racked, because you can have the top and the bottom level, but the sides skewed. And then your window won't function properly. So that's something you definitely want to double check. Now that I've got it tacked in place, I'm going to go ahead and nail it off as per the manufacturer's recommendations. Otherwise, your window won't be covered by warranty. Double check the sill. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off nailing the rest of it. So the next step is to flash the exterior of the window now that it's installed. So the first thing you're going to want to do is cut this back about almost to the top of the nailing flange. Sorry for that sound. Sorry, my blade's a little dull. So the next thing you want to do is cut yourself some flashing pieces. Now you need 2 pieces for the sides, 1 piece for the top, and 2 short pieces. The side pieces are basically the height of your window, and I like to add about 3 inches. That way you can go above the top of the nailing flange and come down past the bottom of the nailing flange. Then you do the other side next. So then after you have your sides done, it's time for the top. So I've actually got to cut these a little higher. I grab the hammer sucker. So I would say, of all the ways to improperly install a window, this is what we come across the most. The top of the window being improperly flashed. A lot of the time you'll see this paper is just tucked in before the window is installed, and then they just rely on tape or flashing tape to seal straight on top of the paper. Not only is that wrong, it's just lazy. So then the next step you want to do is run your top piece of flashing over top of the edges of your side pieces of flashing. make sure you have a good seal against your window nailing flange. And then this flaps down over top. So like I said, a lot of the time you'll see people just flash right over top of the paper, and what happens is water can get down behind that flashing and actually in behind your window. So every window I've ever installed, their installation specs require this, and if it is not done this way, your window is not covered by the warranty. So always read your window installation recommendations or instructions, otherwise you could void the warranty of your window. So always read it before you install. Then this piece just covers up this cut edge. So then after I have this, I'm going to strap out this around this window, and then I'm going to install wood trim over top. And then I actually am going to do the same detail with the top of this window, but with a piece of drip cap over top of my trim. So it's actually going to tuck up underneath this paper. And that's how to install a window. Have a good day, guys.